Hi, this is Nishma, and today I'm going to make an Italian dish called Aubergine Parmigiana. So let's start making that. So what I have here is one aubergine, and I've got about 7 tomatoes, some garlic. So I've got about 7 cloves of garlic here. So I'm going to put everything to roast in the oven. I'll preheated the oven, and it's to about 170 degrees C. So it's preheating. I'll separate the garlic out. If you see any bad bits of the garlic, cut them out. And I'll just wash this, and I'll put it straight in here. I'm not using any oil at the moment. I'm not using any oil for roasting. I'll simply let it roast in its own juices. And I'm going to score the tomatoes by just putting across like that. So continue, just quick. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be. This helps when the tomatoes are roasting, the skin will peel off. And it will help to cook the tomatoes from inside. Okay. Again, I'm putting everything in here. So I'm putting this in a deep casserole dish. So it just saves you washing up later on. If you use too many different utensils, you'll have to end up washing them. So just to keep my life simple, I use a deep dish. Okay, again, look at the aubergine, perfect, hardly any seeds in there. So I'm going to score the aubergine like this, so it makes it easy to cook. Can you see it's making like perfect, like diamonds like that? So I want that. If it doesn't fit, feel free to move your dishes around, because remember, at this stage, when everything cooks, everything will decrease in size, and it will become softer to move around. So there you go. Again, same thing with this second dish. But look at the knife. It's not going right the way through, and it's not scoring the skin. The skin is remaining intact, but it's just scoring the flesh of the aubergine. Okay. At this stage, I will add some salt. And to prevent the aubergine from oxidizing and going brown, what I'll do is I'll turn it upside down, and I'll put it upside down in the casserole dish, so like that. So I'm putting it upside down in the casserole dish, and just move your vegetables around nicely. And I'm going to cover everything up, and it's going in the oven now. As you probably know, the bread is the most wasted item, especially the end bits. They normally not get eaten by anybody. It's one of those sad bit of bread that nobody wants to eat. So let's make it into something really lovely. For this dish, instead of using cheese, we're going to top it up with breadcrumbs. So I'm going to cut into like little squares, and then we'll cook it on in the pan. Normally, if you have stale bread, you can do it the same way, but I don't have stale bread. This is the fresh bread I'm using. You can also put this bread in the oven while it's roasting, while everything else is roasting. So fairly large-ish pieces I'm making. So what do I have here? I got some olive oil, got salt, nutritional yeast, dried garlic powder. I got some um, stock powder, but I may or may not use it. It's vegetable stock. I got mixed herbs, and I got black pepper. So we'll leave the aubergines to roast for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to pan fry the bread. This is another easier way of doing it. Or you can put it in the toast, you can put it in the oven to dry the bread out. Whatever works for you, whatever is easier for you. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil, and try and coat all the pieces of bread. So I'm going to put it really slowly. Yep. Turn it around. This is really quick to make. It's cheaper than using cheese, and it has got low calories as well compared to cheese, and it will make the whole dish taste really nice and light. So while everything is drying, I'm going to reduce the heat because I can feel it burning. See how you see how quick the breadcrumbs are turning golden brown? At this point I can switch this off because everything is dried up really well. So I'll switch the pan off. That's it, it's done. So while it's steaming, I want to add my salt. Don't add too much salt, just a little bit of salt. And I'm adding some mixed herbs. Add this last once the pan is off, otherwise you start burning the herbs as well. And I'm going to use the garlic. I wish you were here. It smells absolutely amazing in this kitchen. Oh, it's divine smell. And now I'm going to take it off into a plate and let it cool down. I've just taken the casserole dish out of the oven, and it's been 20 minutes. I'm going to take the tomato first and just peel the sides like that. So when you're eating the Parmigiana, the sauce, you get less skin. Look at it, doesn't it look pretty? Next one, do the same. Like that. And it's really lovely and soft. It's really hot, so be very careful when you're doing this. It's really hot. So these are cooled down, so I'm going to peel the skin out. Okay, so if you do not have an oven, how would you do this dish? You can do this like you can make the sauce, the tomato sauce and the garlic, blend everything together, and then put it in, and then do it with olive oil. Cook it with olive oil, and add all your spices in there. So the same spices that I'm using, you can use those same spices. And with the aubergine, you can griddle it, or you can cook it on a pan like this, on a non-stick pan at a very, very low heat, and let your aubergine cook like that. so you can see the skin coming out. This will help in like when you are eating the aubergine parmigiana, that there's no skin and you're chewing less. Look at that, that's come out completely nicely. Use a fork to help you. Garlic, see, you didn't need any oil to do this dish. Look at that. I'm going to take this out. Remember, we got to cook this again, so don't worry if the aubergine feels really hard. Like this is not cooked, but it's okay. It's there. It's tender. It's not tender, but it's doable. It's something that you can manage with. This is a type that you want. So I'll take this out. I'll show you why I'm taking everything out. Take the garlic out. Just be very, very careful. It's really hot. Okay. So now, see, you can open this up like that. And here, I'm going to add the sauce. I'm going to make my tomato sauce. I'll add this roasted garlic in there, about 4 cloves of garlic. Here I can get away with more, so I'll use 6 cloves of garlic. Let's put the tomatoes in there. So those tomatoes are really hot to handle, so just leave them to cool for a little bit. There you go. And then see how easily the skin comes out. These tomatoes are really good in a way that they don't have that much water in it. I may even have to add water to this dish just to make it a little bit, it will dry out in the oven, so I will just add a little bit of water so that the sauce doesn't dry out, and when you're eating it, it doesn't feel dry in your mouth, because with the breadcrumbs as well, it will make it quite dry. There you go. So now all the tomatoes are in, and also the 7 cloves of garlic, they've all gone in here, and I'm just blending them to a fine paste, or to a smooth paste. Smells amazing. It's like when you roast your garlic, it tastes sweeter. Okay, so let's come back to the aubergines. You can see like lovely diamond shape in here. I'm going to do something that makes it, to give it a smoky flavor. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, or you don't have this ingredient. So what I'm using is smoky quinoa. So quinoa is usually grown in South of America, but this is from the UK. So life of quinoa starts off like a little grain like this, and I'll cook the quinoa, and it's become a little bit fluffy. So you see all these little gaps, I'm going to put the quinoa in there. So quinoa is something that's it's a grain that's high in protein as well. So you're getting your protein with your vegetable, and fill these gaps in. It's going to give like a really lovely, subtle, smoky flavor. So it will give like a barbecued flavor to this dish. So you see this gap like that, when you put your quinoa in there, it's just nice and nice deep gaps like that. Just fill them in. But like I said before, you don't have to do this if you don't have quinoa. Okay, you can also use smoked paprika. So now everything goes in there. The aubergine is going in. And I'm going to add some, these are my pureed tomatoes. This dish is a great dish if you want to make ahead of time as well. So again, I'll add some salt, some black pepper, and if you feel that you need to add some sugar to it because your tomatoes are quite sour, do add some little bit of sugar, but I'm not going to add any sugar to this. And I'm going to add a little bit of stock powder to this as well. So really tiny bit, more like a quarter teaspoon of that. So I've used quarter teaspoon of stock powder. Salt is to taste. Again, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and I'm using mixed herbs as well. And those are about half a teaspoon. Yeah, half a teaspoon of that. You can add mixed herbs on top later on, and you can see like how I'm just going to I'm pouring the tomatoes on top here because I like to get the tomato sauce inside the grooves when the aubergine cooks, so it'll go inside the grooves. I'm not going to add the breadcrumbs right now. I'll add the breadcrumbs later on when serving so that it retains its crunchiness as well. So I'm going to cover this up because when I put it in the oven, I don't want this dish to dry out. I do want it to be little bit not roasted, but a steamed dish rather than a roasted aubergine. So I'm going to put this in the oven. So it's 30 minutes later, and I had the oven at 200 degrees C. So if you check your aubergine at 20 minutes and see if it's done. If the knife goes straight through, then it's done. Otherwise, leave it on for 30 minutes. So now let's have a look and see if it's done. So I'm going to check the aubergine. Look, the knife goes through straight away. Can you hear the sound? Okay. So now I'm going to plate up. Look at that, how beautiful it looks. So I'm going to sprinkle some nutritional yeast. I've got about half a teaspoon here. So sprinkle that. Nutritional yeast, it gives a cheesy flavor. It's and also it's fortified with vitamin B12. So I've got some nutritional yeast. I'm adding some salt and some mixed herbs. Sprinkling of mixed herbs and some black pepper. So it's about quarter teaspoon of each of them. And finally, remember these breadcrumbs that we made? I'm going to add those. So you can crush them or keep them like whole. There you go, looks lovely. Okay, now I'm going to try it. I'm going to try this dish now. It looks really tempting, so I can't wait to have it. Get some breadcrumbs in there. Blow in it. Don't want to burn my mouth. That's really good. Don't mind if I have some more. Thank you. I hope you enjoy this dish as much as I do. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. See you soon.